Hey doll, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to talk about whether or not you should seek God first when you're dating. So there are several reasons why I was moved to make this video today. For starters, this is a time of year where singles really feel the weight of being single. Like, I don't know about y'all, but ever since Christmas, my timeline and my news feed on IG and Facebook has been nothing but engagements, weddings, baby announcements, engagements, weddings, baby announcements, love, love, love. And I'm just like, it's a lot. Like, I'm happy for them, but as a single, you can be like, well, dang, like, I want to be loved. Who gonna love me? Like, we all want to be loved at the end of the day. So that's one thing. I really want to be an encouragement to singles. Two, sometimes it just hits different when you hear the message from someone who's still in the trenches with you. No shade to anybody who is a relationship or love coach or anything like that, who's in a relationship or married. Like, we love y'all. Y'all are true to this, okay? So keep your head up. Keep pressing forward. I'm not a relationship coach. I'm just a woman that shares my transparent and authentic story. So we love y'all. But as a fellow single, I know how it feels. Sometimes you're like, I just want to talk to someone who's still like in it with me, you know, who still feels what I'm feeling. And so that's another reason why I wanted to make this video. And I honestly was going to do this as a story time, but I was like, you know what? There are some points that I want to share too. So let me just kind of broaden the story. And honestly, that will help me kind of protect this guy's identity a little more. And I'll just share the points and the wisdom, and that way you guys will be able to still get the points. I'll still be able to tell the story, but it doesn't have to be like a long drawn out story time or anything like that, because it really doesn't need to be. So I'm gonna give you guys the background story, and then I'm gonna dive into the points. So last year around March, one of my good friends, he started doing weekly live streams on Instagram to kind of just like lighten the mood, get people feeling like they're still communicating, they're still networking, they're still fellowshipping with people. You know, there's still some sense of community. And so he started doing those weekly live streams with one of his friends. At the time, I didn't know his friend. I had made a comment on my friend's post about the live streams, and then that friend like commented under me, and I was like, who is this? You know, like, like, what are you talking about? Who are you? Whatever. Long story short, I click his page. I see the music. I'm low-key nervous telling this story. I'm hoping that he does not watch my videos on a side note, because 97% of y'all are women that are my subscribers, but that 3%, he might just be in that 3%. And I hope not. I'm like, please don't be watching my videos, because, whoo, Lord. Okay, so we just gonna keep going. So anyways, they start the weekly lives, and I see my crush in the live stream every week, right? And so I'm developing a crush on him because I'm like, first of all, he fine. Like, he easy on the eyes. Like, won't he do it? Thank you, Lord. And then it's like, he got tattoos, and anyone who knows me knows I'm a sucker for tattoos. Like, I just love tattoos. I love, like, just, it's like a form of art and expression to me personally. So in my mind, I'm like, the more tattoos, the better, in good taste, you know, of course. But I love tattoos. So I'm like, ooh, he fine, and he got tats, yes, you know. And then, like, just his character and his personality, and the fact that, like, he really loves God for what I could see up until this point. And, you know, he's still, like, relevant and still in the know, because sometimes Christians can be very cheesy, and it's like they're just all about God 24/7, and it's like, trust me, I love God. You love God? What's wrong with you? You know, so it's just like, I love me some God, but I don't want to talk about God in the Bible 24/7. Like, I want to talk about other things, and I love being around people that are still like relevant to what's going on in the world, but still love God and don't play about their walk with God. So in my mind, he's checking off like the top 3 to 5 boxes of what I would like in a guy and what I look for. So I'm like, ooh, check. Like, we doing this, right? Then he's funny. I'm making him laugh and all this kind of stuff. You know, personality just on lock, right? And so every week we're seeing each other. The feelings are growing stronger and stronger and stronger. Lo and behold, my friend and like this friend and a bunch of others, they come to Atlanta in like October. It was like the first weekend in October. And they told me in advance, my friend that I talked about first, the friend that made the announcement about the live streams, he lets me know like a month in advance or a month and a half. He's like, hey, we coming to Atlanta, you know, in October, woo, woo, woo. So I'm like, what? God, won't you do? Like, God is just such a great guy. He knows I've been crushing on this man for like 6-7 months. And then he arranges it for them to come to Atlanta, my city. Like, come on now, you know. So I'm like, God is just faithful, right? So I'm like, oh, bet I gotta make sure I'm on point. Now, this is like when I had already lost about 20 pounds. You know, weight loss was right. Now I done gained back. Lord have mercy, I done gained back too many holiday pounds, okay? But I had lost this weight, hair was right, you know, edges intact, curls juicy, because I had the time to really like pay attention to myself over the past 6 or 7 months being stuck in the house. So I'm like, oh, this is about to be fire. Like, not only am I gonna reunite with my bro that I met in person in February, but I knew before that, but I'm gonna meet all these other people that I had met online throughout the year. So this is about to be great, and I'm gonna see my crush. Like, won't he do it? So they come down in October. I cook for them. I make like curry and rice and peas and stuff, and I am just on cloud 10, not even cloud 9. So a mutual friend, we're all at a video shoot or whatever, and me and her are talking, and she asked me something, and I brought up my crush's name because the answer involved him being in this scenario. Like, she asked me basically a question about a situation, a scenario, an event that had occurred. And I was like, oh yeah, so-and-so was there. You know, so-and-so, I came with so-and-so and blah, 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 blah. And so we're talking, and she's just giving me this look because I had mentioned his name in relation to this scenario, like I said. And so I'm like, why are you giving me a look? And so she's like, no, I feel something here. I gotta talk to you about some song. I'm like, does she know? Because at this point, I didn't tell anybody I had a crush on him. Like, the only people that knew were my mom and my sister. Nobody else knew. And I mean, my best friend from high school, but she's still in Virginia, so she don't know what's going on. Like, she don't know about this influencer, content creator life, right? And so nobody else knew. And so I'm looking like, I know I wasn't that obvious with it, because I keep a good poker face for the most part. And so she's like, wait, why are you looking at me like that? I'm like, why are you looking at me like that? So we step off, we have our little conference, you know, as women. And long story short, I tell her that I'm crushing on this guy. And so she's like, I knew it. I could just tell, like, when y'all be on the live streams talking, you could feel the chemistry, because let me put an aside here. On their live streams, at first they started off like going live with each other and talking, and then eventually they went to each other's houses, and they would like bring other people on or whatever. So I would always be like a standing guest, especially when they were talking about anything that had to do with like women's issues or anything like that. They're like, Delle, we need you in here, right? So she was like, I could just tell like the chemistry between y'all, and I just have this gift, like I be knowing when people are flirting and they not trying to like flirt or whatever. So I'm just like, girl, don't gas me up. Like, please don't gas me up and be like, oh yeah, he was flirting, because that's how you play yourself, right? So she was like, no, I swear, like he was. So we're talking about that. And I'm just like, okay, well, if you see it, and mind you, she wasn't the only person that said this after she had said it. Like, she was the first person to notice, but after she had said it, like a few other people noticed it, including my family, long story short. And so they're just like, okay, you know. And so at this point, I'm like, okay, maybe it really is something legitimate. Like, maybe there actually is something here. And so when they leave Atlanta, everyone leaves and whatnot, I'm like, okay, let me kind of test the waters and just see like if there's anything here. And side note, I'm not a fan of women shooting their shot. I'm not a fan of women being like, hey, what's up, handsome? Like, what's good? When you gonna take me out? That's not, don't do that. Like, I'm just a firm believer and a firm witness that when a man approaches you first, that it goes better and he takes it more seriously. Now, you can make it known that you're single and available and open to dating, but there's ways to do that. And if you want a video on that, let me know. I can make one. But, you know, nevertheless, I'm like, let me just kind of do what I do. And me and her kind of talking. And she's like, okay, do this, do that. Kind of brushing me up, because let's be real, I've been out the game for like now almost 5 years, but at that point, like 4.5 years. So a chick is rusty, you know, a chick is, is a little rusty. So she was bringing me up to date, brushing me up on all that and all that kind of stuff. And so after it's all said and done, after I kind of get my intel, I figure out that he's not at a point where he's ready to date right now, and he's just really focusing on his career. Now, the main thing as I was trying to test the waters and see if he was interested was that I prayed and asked God. And this is going to bring us, I said all of that for a point. So I don't want y'all to be like, okay, sis, like, what are we here for? You know, so I said all of that for a point. But my point is that this was the first time that I was interested in a guy that I actually sought God first, and I saw the fruit of that. And so I want to share with you guys what was revealed to me and what I learned throughout this whole process, so that you can just proceed a little bit wiser, you know, especially the older we get. Like, we ain't got time to waste, sis. Okay, when you're in your 30s, your 40s, like, we got to be on it, okay? We got to be seeking the Father before the throne. And this was my first time doing it, and I saw the fruit of that. Every other time, like, you know how it is, you be like, oh, I prayed about it and I just have a piece on it, but you really didn't pray about it. Like, you just wanted it to work, so you went ahead and went into the relationship or pursued the guy or let the guy pursue you. and you just like pray every day, like, God, please let him be the one for me because I like him. Like, you like him so much now, you praying that God will bless it, when you should have just sought God first and make sure and wait for an answer and hear when he tells you what the answer is. Because a lot of times God tells us, but we don't listen because we want to be with that guy, so we just go ahead and do it. Or we want to be with that woman if you're a guy, you know, so we go ahead and do our thing. These are the points that I learned in that whole scenario as to why you should seek God first when you're dating. If you are interested in a guy, if you have a feeling that you just cannot shake, I'm not talking about infatuation, like, oh, girl, he fine. Like, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, like, I actually really can see myself with this guy. I actually really think these are real feelings. These are the reasons why you should seek God first. Before you even allow him to pursue you, before you even try to pursue him, if that's your steez, you know, whatever the case may be. But point number one is God will give you clarity as to whether this person is really his best for you or not. Now, I'm not a believer in the one. If that was the case, we're all screwed in life, because someone out there done chose the wrong one. And if they chose the wrong one, then they done threw off the whole world's love system. So I don't believe in the one. I believe God gives us free will. I believe that he has his best matches for us in life, but honestly, it's our decision and our choice and discernment to pick who we want to be with and then make it work within the confines of, obviously, like, your purpose, God's will, blah, blah, blah. But that takes you spending time getting to know yourself and figure out what God's purpose for you is. Even just the beginning part of it. You're not going to know the full blueprint, but just having an idea as to why God created you and, you know, where you're going in life and all that. Like, all of that helps you pick your partner versus if you're just kind of blowing in the wind. But when you seek God first, he will give you that clarity. And a lot of times we don't, like I said, we don't seek God because we don't want that clarity, because you see the guy, you like him, and you're like, this gotta work. Like, he's checking off all my boxes. But it's like, God might have something, not might. If God's telling you that someone's not for you, trust me, he has better in mind for you. And that better might not fit all your preferences, because a lot of times we pick based on our preferences. A lot of times we lead with that, and it gets us into these relationships that aren't the best for us or where God's taking us. But if we stop and we seek God, even though that guy from the outside looking in might fit everything on your list of preferences and even some of your needs, or all of your needs and some of your preferences or whatever, God will be like, nah, like, that's not it, because maybe y'all coming together will get you off track, or you'll idolize that man, or whatever, you'll get him off track. You know, there's so many different things, but God will give you the clarity as to whether this person aligns with your will or not. And he definitely did that for me. Point number two, as to why we should seek God first when we're looking to date, is that this will help us determine whether we have a genuine interest or just lust for a person. So if you are genuinely interested in somebody and you pray and you seek God, that interest will be there. Even if what God is telling you is like, that person's not for you, or you know, not so much that, but like, maybe not right now, you're gonna be okay with waiting, or you're gonna be okay with the rejection, because at the end of the day, you really care about that person more so than just having them for yourself. Now, if it's lust, you're gonna be obsessing over this person, you're gonna be fiending over them, you're just gonna want them because they fit in your box, and you probably want to do some sort of career with them, or some sort of business, or you're fantasizing about how you guys' life is gonna look, or you're just thinking about them in a sexual standpoint, to be honest. You know, you look at them and you're like, ooh, yeah, I just want to jump their bones, you know? And so when you take that time to pause and be like, okay, I'm interested in this guy, the interest seems to be growing, let me pray and really see if I'm really interested or whether it's lust. You'll start to see, because honestly, like, when you really calm down and your hormones calm down and you really start to observe somebody, you really be like, they're not that fine, you know, like, they're not all of that. I don't know why I was pressed. That's why when we break up with somebody and we see them years later, you kind of like, I don't know why I was pressed about you, because now the infatuation is gone, the lust is gone. Like, you've been with that person, you've seen them, you know their ins and outs. Or even like your high school crush. Sometimes you're crushing so hard on a guy in high school and he's just everything to you since sliced bread, the best thing since sliced bread. Then you see him years later and you're just kind of like, why was I pressed? Like, he's actually kind of corny, or he's actually kind of dry. Like, he's, you know, or he's kind of, you know, conceited or whatever. Like, you start to see them without the rose-colored glasses, because there's been a period of separation. There's been a period where you've been able to cool off and kind of get your head straight. And so That's what seeking God first does. It gives you that ability to kind of cool off, pause, and get your thoughts and get your head straight, so you can really look at this guy objectively and not be like, not be so pressed because he fits your boxes or what you pictured in your mind. Because you will make excuses for somebody because you want to be with them. You'll make concessions because you want to be with them, and you'll be like, well, he was a little rude or whatever, but it's all good. Like, maybe he's just having a bad day, or the conversation was a little awkward, but. Or maybe he's just kind of, I don't know, maybe he doesn't know what to talk about. Like, even though we always get on the phone and it's like, hey, how you doing? And there's just silence in the background. Like, maybe he just is, I don't know, maybe he just isn't a conversationalist. Maybe he's just a deep thinker. Like, knowing good and well, you can't build with that. Like, you need to have conversation. And if you can't, it's little stuff like that because you really want this to work. That's the final point, is that seeking God first when you're dating, it will keep you from obsessing over someone and keep you level-headed. So I already alluded to this, but just to repeat, like, it will give you that pause period where you're able to just take a breath and not be like, all on their Instagram and on their Facebook and just doing the most and talking to them all the time and just growing in deeper and deeper affection without any like real sort of context or revelation as to whether this person can work with you. And on a major side note, if you have to find yourself forcing it, leave it alone. If a guy is like not really giving you any leeway, if he just seems so like business with this, so professional, like just straight to the point, he probably ain't feeling you, or maybe he admires you, maybe he thinks you're beautiful or whatever, but he's just not open to a relationship. And so he just like shuts it. Like, you don't even get any sort of leeway. He's just like, oh, nope, shutting it down. So anything that you have to force this, let it go, because it's not worth it. A man that's truly interested in you, from my experience, again, I'm not a relationship expert, I'm just speaking from my own life experience, he's going to pursue you, and you're not going to have a doubt of whether he's interested or not. Like, if you have to doubt it, he's probably not interested. So, or he's just in a different space, Nevertheless, those are the things that I learned from that experience in March 2020. We shall see what the future holds. I'm just glad that I kind of went through that, and now I'm getting over it. I'm not going to say I'm not attracted to him anymore or anything. Like, of course, there's still attraction there, but it's just like, at the end of the day, what I'm not going to do is sit here and try to convince anybody or try to force anybody to be with me, because at the end of the day, boo-boo, like, come on now. Like, if you don't see it, I don't know what to tell you. Anybody that knows me is like, even the same friend the other day, she was like, you are a powerhouse. Like, anybody that's going to approach you, he has to come correct. He got to match your fly. So I'm just like, you know what? I didn't even think of myself like that, but now that you say it, you're right. So I'm like, I'm just not going to convince anybody or force anybody. Either you see it or you don't. If you don't see it, trust and believe. There's more where that came from, boo-boo, like, period. All I have for you guys. I hope that this video is insightful. I hope it's helpful. Make sure that when you're interested in somebody, you stop and you pray and ask God first. And if God reveals to you, like, that's not the one for you, if you get a feeling deep in your belly, deep within, don't ignore it. Listen to God and move accordingly. You don't have to be dramatic. You don't have to disrespect the person. You don't have to cut them off. None of that. But you make sure that you move accordingly so you can be open for the God that God has for you and be ready to love and receive that. So I will see you guys on the next video. Don't forget to like and comment down below and subscribe if you made it this far. And I will see you next week. Bye.